All right, I am back again. Welcome to another broadcast. This is going to be a short one. My goal is to make this under 35 minutes if I can. Under 35 minutes. But I'm doing this really for the record. I'm just doing this for the record. I was inspired at the last second. I said, hey, let me just jump on here and do a quick video. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to give people about a minute to join. Right now I'm looking at this. Ain't nobody looking at me. That's fine. But I'm just doing this for the record. It's just something out there and people want to watch. You can. If not, that's fine too. But I'm here. But anyway, let's give people about another minute. And I'm just going to jump right in, okay? So let me just go ahead and wait. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is very sudden. I actually wasn't really planning on earlier today to do a live. I figured it was like at the last minute. It was just like maybe in the last 15 minutes. I was like, you know what? Let me just jump live and do a live. And so as opposed to me sitting down here recording a video and editing and all that kind of stuff, I just said, I'll just talk. And so anyway, we're just going to jump right into it. There's a video that I did. Did I post it? Yes. Last night? I think it was earlier today it was. Earlier today I posted this video. Let's take a look at the short. Okay, I want to play this short here for you. And we're going to have a good conversation. It's going to be short. Where's my thing? Okay, here it is. There you go. All right, so the shorts. So yeah, I have been pumping out these shorts, y'all. So make sure you're catching up on them. All right. So anyway, this is the one because I posted it here, but I also posted it on our TikTok page, and I don't think I posted it on Instagram yet. But I want to play this for you. Okay. Then we're gonna jump right in. Okay. So let me go ahead and do that. That ain't it. Meet the dumbest kid on planet Earth at this particular moment. His name is Devion Canty Jr. This took place on the campus of Texas State University. At the time, Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point, they were having a small gathering, kind of like a memorial or whatever for him. And this was a small gathering of the members, and that was it. And regardless of where you stand on Charlie Kirk or whatever, this ain't even about that at all. Okay, we just looking at what happened here. So this dude pushed his way through that gathering, pushed his way up to the front, and proceeded to reenact this assassination while making fun and calling them names and cursing at folks. Now, before some of you jump and say, well, that's freedom of speech. Well, there's also something called freedom of a peaceful gathering. You are free to gather peacefully in this country as well. And what he did, he infringed on their right for a peaceful gathering. And so the school rightfully expelled him for that. So what this student does, he goes home, and then he comes up with the bright idea of, I'm going to ask for money. In fact, I'm going to create this whole story that I was the victim. I was the one that they were attacking and all of that, when the video clearly shows that didn't happen. And he goes to, guess where? GoFundMe to ask for money. And look at how much he made so far. So the black community came together, saw value in what he did. But wait, there's more. Now, you remember there was another guy by the name of Trey Reed? Yeah, that guy that everyone thought that was lynched by some sneaky, ghostly white people who snuck on the college campus at night, snatched him up and decided to lynch him. And then they only for it to come out that unfortunately he committed suicide. Remember that? And once that news came out, well, you could see the interest went down on that story. I checked around to see, do they have a GoFundMe? Well, I found one, and look at how much they raised. So this is why me, as a Black American man, I say proudly and publicly that I am not a member of the Black community, because a true progressive community does not build on this kind of foolishness. When you are willing to take someone's life, use it for a narrative, only to toss it out, while at the same time you want to encourage the behavior of people like that, that's not community, that's stupidity.
There you go. So that's what I said. Now, again, it's an opinion. It's my thoughts or whatever, just like everybody else has their own. But it's actually rooted in observations that not only I know I've made, but I would say that many of you have made. So let's get into it. Okay, so again, when we're talking about a community, when we're talking about, you know how, people, there's a saying, I mean, you don't even need the saying, but you can just look at the word itself. Look at the word community. You know, you can't spell community without unity, right? So that's really what the focus is going to be and what I'm going to be talking about here, okay, is unity, okay? So what I was pointing out in that video is here you have a group of people who basically believe that the actions of this idiot, because that's exactly who he is. Here you got a group of people, and again, I don't care. Take Charlie Kirk. It could have been Kermit the Frog. I don't care. What I'm pointing out is here you have an individual who decided to launch himself into someone else's gathering. That's their business, whatever they were doing. They could have been having a demonic seance. It doesn't matter. He chose to launch himself into their gathering and decided to mock them. Okay. And then he got kicked out. Right. So, but, and it's all on video. You take a look at the video, you see everything I'm saying, it's there. Right. So again, get off of thinking that I'm saying that we can't say anything about Charlie Kirk. It could have been Kermit the Frog. I don't care. I'm not even thinking about Charlie Kirk here. But see, this is the mind, this is the programming. It gets people into these little streams that you can't even have a conversation unless you're bringing up some of their latest hashtags. I'm not talking about that. This is just one example. And so here you got an individual who launched himself into that situation. The school said, no, you can't do that because, again, our Constitution says that you have a right for a peaceful assembly and you can't infringe on that, which I agree on. And I think most of you would agree with that as well. So he infringed on their right to do that. And so guess what? He got kicked out. So he goes home. He writes this little simple paragraph saying how much he was a victim and it was really him that's the victim and all of that, and saying that they were calling me racist names. And that's all it took. The last I checked, it was over $20,000 that he raised. And so I took that story, right? Here you got an individual that made some very dumb decisions, right? Then on the flip, I showed you, the unfortunate brother that, decided to end his life, Trey Reed, who you had black folks at one moment were gathering around his story because they really believed that there was a narrative, there was a racist narrative attached to his personal story. But once the information came out, that story, I showed you the numbers, it literally trended down. People lost interest in talking about that story. But not only that, I took you to what, it looks like their, their GoFundMe page, $5,000. Nobody cares. They cared when they thought it was a racial narrative. And then we can also look at the same thing with Carmelo Anthony, that whole situation as well. You still got numbers of folks that are automatically jumping in because they believe it fulfills a racial narrative. And so my point is this, is that why does it seem like it always trends towards, when we talk about community, and we're going to get into this, why does it seem like anytime these stories come up, what we call the black community, and this is what I'm going to challenge you on this evening, tends to always skew towards protecting who they believe is the criminal in that situation. You have things on film, you got things on video, you got witnesses and everything saying, okay, this dude did something. But that never comes up. It's automatically, no, we got to protect this person. And then you find out this person was committing crimes and doing all that kind of stuff, but nobody brings that up. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about. So I, as an individual, I do not want to be associated with people who think that way. Now, am I saying that I'm not black? Am I saying that I'm going to shed off my skin? I don't want to have nothing to do with any black people at all. Did I say that? No. But when I was going through the comments, apparently a lot of people was getting that out of that. I didn't say that at all. But it was quite revealing to sit back and to see what people were taking out of this. It was really, and I'm still sitting back and I'm learning and I'm watching. But let's look at when we say community. Let's look at this for a second, okay? Just like I said again, I promise you, I do not want this to be a long video. But let's look at the word community. As I just said, you cannot spell the word community without unity. Let me ask you something. And I know the majority of you just come and you listen and you don't put anything in the chat. That's fine. But as long as you're listening, that's all that matters. Let me ask you something. Do you really believe that what we call today, there is an existence of a black community? Understanding that you cannot spell community without unity. I want you to think about that before you jump and say anything. Before you answer it, I want you to think about that long and hard. Do you honestly believe that there is a such thing as common unity in what we call the black community? Do you honestly believe that? Now, while you're thinking that, let me toss some things out here for you, okay? And then I'm going to show you some things I shared with another group earlier today, and I'll share it with you. So right now, we got a trend right now on social media where literally you know how you hear about passport brothers, right? You have black men who are saying, we are done with black women. We're tired of them. And we don't want to have anything to do with, well, I would say black American women. Let me just say that. There's a whole trend that's happening right now where you have black American men who are saying, I'm done with black American women. And they fall in the category of the passport bros or whatever, right? Now, here we got an example of black American men who are saying today that they don't want to have anything to do with black women. Does that sound like unity to you? Does that sound like a unity that the black folks are just unified? Does that sound like unity to you? Just asking. Does that sound like unity to you? Okay, so we got that. Then on the other side, you got black women who say they don't want to have anything to do with black men. Now, again, does that speak for every black person? No, it does not. I'm pointing out just some of the things, okay? I'll touch on as many as I can. But you got black women who are saying the same things about black men, are they not? All on YouTube, all on TikTok, don't have anything to do with black men. Does that sound like unity to you? Well, let's continue on with this, shall we? Let's think about this even further. Within what we call the black community, we also have multiple belief systems. And when I say belief systems, you got some black folks who believe that, they are Christians, right? They hold on to their Christian faith. That's fine. That's what you want to do. That's cool. Then you have black folks who say that they are Hebrew Israelites on this side. So you got Christians over here and you got Hebrew Israelites over here. When you're looking at them online interact, are they saying, hey, we're just going to chill. Hey, listen, I respect your difference. And hey, at the end of the day, hey, listen, we're all this and that. Hey, we're at we just have a talk. No, do a quick search on YouTube. You're going to find Hebrews banging on Christians. And then you're going to find Christians banging on Hebrews. They both black. but they literally attack one another every day. Does that sound like unity to you? Does it sound like a community to you? I'm just wondering. So you got that. Okay. So, and then you got the black folks who believe that they're Native Americans. Then you got the ones that they believe that there's American descended of slaves. And then the American descended of slaves, they attack the ones that are FBA, and the FBA, they attack the ADOS and all of that. We're talking more than just a difference of opinion here. I'm talking full scale attack where people are literally saying, when you sit back and listen to these people talk about each other online, they really are trying to take each other out. They will call each other names. They will attack one another. Does that sound like unity to you? Does that sound like a community to you? Of people that have a common unity? What's the common unity in that? And so far in everything I've shared, what is the common unity other than everybody is black? What is the common unity in that? I'm just throwing out things there because my goal here is to get you to think, is to get you to use your head. That's my goal. Okay, let's take it a little bit further. Okay, shall we? Let's take it a little bit further. Now we're going to get into another area that I know for some of you is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's true anyhow. Now, hopefully you watched the video that I did yesterday where we touched on this a little bit, but let me just bring this up. I have oftentimes talked about black flight. I've talked about this many times. I brought it up. Trust me, y'all. I'm not going to really delve into this, but I want to take a slightly different angle that, to mention it. I'm just going to mention it briefly. So here, when we talk about black flight, again, go back. Black flight is basically a sociological term that's used to describe when you have a significant amount of black Americans or black individuals who leave their traditional places in a town or a city to go or flee to an area that's outside of that for whatever the reasons are, right? That's called black flight. That's been around for years. I'm a child of that. I've lived in that, and I'm sure many of you as well. So here you have, I can go down the list, just someone that lived on the East Coast, okay? All in New Jersey. I can go in Pennsylvania. I could talk about some places in New York. You got Delaware. You got Maryland. I could go down through the whole list there of different areas that were traditionally black, mostly black areas. I'm going back now, okay? And what has happened is we will get online and talk about how evil and wicked and how demonic white people are, and they're the most violent and all this stuff, and we don't want to have nothing to do with them. But we are so desperate to get away from ourselves, we will remove ourselves from our own towns in order to be closer to those that we spend all this time online saying how demonic and evil and wicked they are. You're that desperate to get away from your own that you're willing to take that risk. Does that sound like unity to you? That, hey, we're coming together. Does that sound like unity to you? That you're so wanting that there's such a common unity. We are literally fleeing one another. Does that sound like community to you? Now, I can go down the whole list of different things, and I'm sure you can add to the list as well. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. And see, and I was just responding to someone's comment, and I mentioned, I said, here's the thing. You know how we say community begins at home, common unity? It begins in the house. And how your house is modeled is how you expect, or what you expect to see when you walk outside of the house. You understand what I'm saying? So in other words, if you are an individual that has been accustomed to some type of order and structure and things like that, when you go outside of the house, well, that's how you're going to function and expect other people to kind of fit into that narrative, right? And if they don't fit, then chances are you're probably going to back away from them because you're like, that's not really, I'm not used to that, right? But if you are an individual that's used to dysfunction, if you're used to dysfunction, when you go outside of the house, you're going to expect more dysfunction to the point where you normalize it. And I just went down the list and I just named some of these things here. Now follow me. I'm not saying all black people think this way. I am not saying this. So just park it, okay? So let's go down the list of some of the things that has been embraced, welcomed, and even protected by numbers, not all black individuals. For example, these are just some random things, okay? Like, for example, believing that the only way to solve a very simple dispute is by bringing in a high level of aggression that may include you using a gun. Okay, let me say it again for the slow in the house. I'm not saying all black people think this way, but there are a lot who do. All right. How, when it comes to, when we talk about women, for example, that, twerking in public, for example, being loud, some of these things that we see a lot of, and we think that's okay, that, hey, shoot, I'm just being me. I'm just being real. There are numbers of people who believe that that's okay, that you should be able to be as loud and do whatever you want in public, and there should be no consequence, right? There are individuals who believe when it comes to music, for example, that music can say whatever. It can encourage some of the most sickest and the self-destructive stuff ever, and it's okay. There are numbers of people that look like me who think that's okay. Do all black people who look like me, think that way? No, I'm not saying that. But there are numbers who do. And we can go down the list over and over again. Let me jump right on this too. Because, I do want to hear some interaction. I would open the phone too, if people are willing to call in. You believe that's regulated to the black community? No. See, this is what I'm saying, Steve. Did I say that? Did I say or suggest that only black people deal with this? Did I say that at all, Steve? Was there anything that I said at all in this conversation so far that I said that only black people are dealing with this? Did I say that? I didn't say that, nor did I suggest that. What we're talking about is our neck of the woods. I don't care what white people are doing. I don't care what Asian people are doing. I don't care what the other people are doing. We are talking about within this section of town. That's what we're talking about. And the problem that I encounter a whole lot, Steve, is anytime we try to have this kind of dialogue or conversation, when we're talking about, we're going to say in-house stuff, right? Is that there is this proclivity for a lot of people to immediately pivot to, oh, it's them. But what about them over there? But what about that group over there? But what about them? They do it too. But what about that group over there? I don't care what these other groups are doing. If I'm having a conversation with a common group, that's who we're talking about. I'm trying to get wherever we are as a common group up to this point. I want to talk to this group. I don't want to talk to the Asians. I don't want to talk to the white people. They got their own issues and problems and situations that they got to deal with. But why is it so difficult when we try to have these kind of conversations? There's this automatic proclivity that we got to pivot. It's them, but what them did, what they did, but what about them? It's always that. You ever notice that? So no, I see that you said, no, I just tuned in. Yeah, so it would be very wise if you go back, if you so choose to, and go back and listen to what I was saying, okay? That would probably be the best thing for you to do, okay? Being very respectful, but I think that would be the wisest thing to do if you want to, participate in this. I'm all here for you though. Okay. But yeah, so this whole concept of community, what I am suggesting to you this evening, I'm looking at my time already. I got to speed it up. What I'm suggesting to you this evening is that when we say the words Black community, I think what a lot of us have in mind is Black community means when you get a bunch of Black people together in one room or one section of town or whatever, and that's a community. We just automatically think that you got a whole bunch of Black folks. Okay, that's a community. And we automatically think that way. But we have seen time and time again that there are numbers of cases when you get a bunch of people in the room, and this is across the board. This ain't just Black people. This is across the board. Just because you see a whole bunch of white people together, it doesn't mean they're a community. Each individual represents their own individuality. That's what they represent. We do share some common interest as people that have the same color of skin. But one thing we do is we are assuming that everybody that has the same color, we're all on the same page, and we have a just a singular way of thinking about everything. Our opinions are all the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? But that's not true. I mean, you got Chris Rock who did the famous thing. You got Black folks and you know what I'm saying? So this is a very real thing, but there's this struggle that I see that a lot of people feel that we all are in this together, but that's not true. The truth of the matter is there are many people who look like you that will want to kill you. And there's many examples of that today. There's many examples of that. You don't have to go far. You can go on TikTok. You can go on YouTube. There are many Black folks out here today that are saying they will complain and say, oh, these Black people, there's some Black people out here, this, that, or whatever. I don't do that here. I will point it out and say, this is what's happening. But now, what's the next step? What do we have to do to fix it? But it's when you have that kind of conversation, that's when people get offended. But if I was to get up here and be all in my he-motions and talking about, oh, Black women are this and Black men ain't doing that, and, you Black people need to do better. If I was saying that kind of stuff, oh, yeah, child, man, that would go far, wouldn't it? But but me sitting up here and saying, this is the problem, here's the solution. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. But anyway, let me move on, because there's a couple of things I just want to share very quickly with you, okay? Very quickly, and then I'm done. I shared this earlier with another group here. Let me bring it up on the screen. And I think you guys will appreciate this. And if you like, I can, post it on the community page. But anyway, so here's what I asked ChatGPT. I said, how does one separate themselves from a self-destructive culture who shows very little interest in improvement? Okay. And this is across the board. I just wanted to see. And it was funny. It was like, okay, I've already said all this stuff with the stuff that came back. It was funny. All right. So let's just go through it real quick. Okay, here we go. Separating yourself from a self-destructive culture, especially one where there seems to be little interest in growth, requires both internal shifts and external boundaries. Here's a few key steps to consider. All right. And then here we go. Define what improvement and health means to you: mental, physical, financial, spiritual, and creative. Right. So it starts with you. And then number 2, it says, write down the traits or behaviors you want to embody versus the ones you want to distance yourself from. This gives you a compass to follow instead of reacting to the culture around you. All right. And then number 2, limit your exposure. Reduce time spent in environments both online and offline. that reinforce destructive habits. The second thing was curate your social feeds, unfollowing or muting voices that normalize dysfunction. And then the next one is physically create distance where possible. Sometimes the environment itself is the biggest reinforcer. Now, everything I'm reading here to you, this can apply to anybody, really, regardless of race. But anyway, build an alternative community. Seek out circles in person or virtually that share your desire for growth. That might be through professional groups, health-focused communities, study groups, or even entrepreneur networks. Let me stop here for a second. This is another one. They said the black community is wherever the black community is. What the hell does that even mean? What does that even mean? One of the things for some of our men in the house that come in, what I really want to challenge you on is writing out a complete thought. Now, I'm not throwing you under the bus, and I'm not trying to shade you, and I'm not trying to embarrass you. But when you write out a comment, when you're commenting, make sure you're writing a complete thought. Okay, so that way we can better understand what you're saying and we can dive in. That's it. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so, all right, so he came back and he said this, and I'm going to finish what I was saying. And wherever we go, we take community with us. That's not true. That is not true. You want me to give you an example of that? Okay, so why is it then? Okay, so when you have, remember earlier I talked about black flight, for example. And you have a segment of black folks who decide to leave their black communities to live in mostly white suburbs. And then in the example I gave, and like I said, there was many other examples I could have given as well. You'll have black folks who will live in these suburbs areas, but what then begins to happen is that you'll have those groups begin to separate as well in the suburbs. You'll have one group that is destructive. Then you got another group that's like, man, y'all messing this up for us. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying all the black folks are bringing crime in. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that even in our escaping, there's still a separation that takes place. So no, that is not community. It may look like community, but there is no common unity in that. You understand what I'm saying? So no, that is not wherever you go, you bring community with you. No, your community actually starts in the house. That's where it begins. Okay. Now, if any of you, because like I said, I'm here. Like I said, I had some time this evening. But if you would like to call in, let me know in the chat. I'm not going to talk all over you. I'm not going to talk down on you at all. But I would actually welcome it. Okay. This will be one place that you can have where we can actually talk these things through. That's if you want to. But if you don't, that's fine too. But I always try to make that available for people if that's what they want to do. But anyway, okay, let me go back to what I was saying. Practice quiet leadership. You don't need to preach or try to fix others. Often that only deepens resistance. Instead, live out your values consistently. Quietly modeling change shows others there's an alternative without draining your energy. And then I'll just hit 5 and 6 real quick. It says develop resilience and then invest in long-term identity shifts. It goes into that, right? All right. The other thing I want to show you real quick is I actually did a much deeper dive on this topic here. Because we actually talked about, because this is what I'm saying when we talk about community, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because first we have to define what community is, or what is culture. That's probably the better thing. What is culture? Because depending on who you talk to, culture can mean something different based on whoever you're talking to. So I actually did a video here. I'm trying to bring it up for you right now. I'm just going to point it out to you. Here it is. It's right here. And I'm not going to even play it. I'm just going to point it out to you. I would encourage anybody to watch this video. It's an hour long, but I'm very, very detailed in this. What is Black American culture? And in this video, I actually start off talking about defining what is culture just across the board without talking about what is Black culture. Before I get to that question, we first got to understand what culture is. And so what we did was we identified the main pillars of any culture. So we did that, right? We first identified the main pillars of any culture. And then the next step was, I said, let's look at an example of a culture that ticks all those boxes. And then finally, what we did was I said, now let's look at Black American culture and let's see how it matches this. And that's where we saw there were numbers of boxes that were ticked, but there was some that was, yeah, we need improvement. And then we focused on that. So this is a great video if you really want to understand. Let's get out of, because you see the subtitle here is, what is Black American culture? More than hip hop or swag. Because I got so tired of hearing people, anytime when you ask them what is Black culture, they always say it's swag, it's our music, and then you just leave it at that. No, Black culture is a lot more deeper and richer than that. And we have to be able to define it. If you can't define it, you can't defend it. You understand? How can you defend what you can't define? And that's exactly where we are today. You got a lot of people thinking that they're defending something, but they can't even define it. So this is what we try to do. We first got to define it. It's not hard. It doesn't take a PhD to do this. It just takes calmness, just looking at it and discussing as adults. That's it. And if there's going to be some disagreement, so what? We can disagree respectfully and keep it moving. But I'll just leave you with this. When we talk about Black culture, today we cannot measure Black culture. How can I say this? When we take an analysis of Black culture, what has happened is that we have assumed way too many things that actually kill culture. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so just like a business, when you got to do an audit and go through that culture and say, okay, this we got to take care of. This we got to get rid of. This we got to do this. Okay, this over here, we can build this up. Let's keep that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Okay, this we were doing well. Okay, this is that or whatever. And what I'm saying is because there's so many factions and separations within what we call Black culture today. Black culture today is really a highly dysfunctional culture. It is. And it's not a culture that is conducive for moving forward. Not at this time. Am I saying that all Black people are like that? No, I'm not. There are numbers of Black folks who do not fall into these categories where they're self-destructive and they're bitter and angry and all that. There are plenty of Black folks who don't fall into those categories. So when you hear me say that I no longer want to identify with Black culture, I am not saying that I am running away from who I am, my Black face. I'm not running from that. Okay. I'm not running away from my history. I have way too many videos on this platform where I am forever defending Black history. I'm forever teaching Black history. So nobody's running from that. What I am saying is that there's too much dysfunction that we, unfortunately, over the years have come to bridge in and say, come on in. We're going to defend you. Just going back to that dude that decided to act like a complete fool on Texas State University. That is someone that there should have been instead of handing him $20,000+, there should have been an outcry that says, no, fool, you on your own on that. Why do we have to defend that? Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. So when you hear me say this, that's why I wanted to do this video, because I wanted to make it very clear for people, because apparently we got a lot of slow people. It ain't you though. You ain't slow. But there are a lot of slow people out there that just they hear just enough and they just off to the races. Oh, you just trying to get favor for the white man and all this stuff, and you just a coon and all this. What? No, I'm challenging myself, and I'm also challenging you, and I'm saying, hey, let's aim to do better. And this is the ways that we can practically do it. But I am telling you, one of the largest challenges that I have, at least trying to do that on this medium, on this platform, is that for a lot of people, they don't want, they will deflect forever. People will deflect forever. It's always, but Mr. Charlie said this, but what about them? What about them? And what about them? And this and that or whatever. But it's never that. And that's why I said last night in our video, I said, if we are going to see this, what I'm talking about here right now, if we're going to see real change, it's not going, the next big movement or revolution amongst black individuals, it is not going to be internet based. It's going to have to start in the homes. It's going to have to start in the streets. And if we're looking online and thinking that by calling ourselves a unique hashtag that somehow that's going to bring change, it's not it. That doesn't replace fathers not in the home. That doesn't replace mothers that are being who they are. That doesn't fix the fact that we have a trend right now where you have black men who want to go east and black women that want to go west. That's not common unity. That is not common unity. So how can we say with a straight face that we have a community when literally we are trending topics that are saying everything but unity? Answer that for me. I really would like to hear an answer on that. And someone said here, I'm just going through the comments here. How about we turn to a culture honoring Jesus Christ? Well, I mean, you model it out in your home first, but right now I would say this: the church has too many problems right now to do that. I have a video. I have another platform. It's called Long Form History. And I have a series. I would highly encourage you to watch it. And basically the name of the series is, I'll pull it up for you. And I know this is going to probably, shake you up a little bit. Long Form History channel. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Let me just share this with you real quick here, okay? You see this right here? This is a, here it is. The Black Church, a factory of broken children. So if you want to know what my stance is when it comes to the church and the black community, it starts with the children. And I would encourage you, don't get triggered by the title, push beyond the title. And I want you to actually watch. I think I have 2, maybe 3 parts of that. And I can't recall right now. But I would really challenge you to do that. All right. So this is another channel that I have, when I get extra time, there's videos I put on here as well. But I would really challenge you to do this because as far as the church is concerned, the church has been unfortunately has been a terrible model for establishing community. It wasn't always like that, though. It wasn't always like that. But what we see today, it is not a model that should be followed to be for straight men to look to establish families. It is not that. It is not that. So yeah, so I would encourage you to check that out. Let me see what else. I think that's really it. That's all I wanted to share, is that I really want to challenge you on this whole notion that community just simply means that when you get a bunch of black people together. That's not true at all. And we model this out literally every day, where there's literally one group going one way, the other group going another way, in every aspect. When it comes to gender, sexual, relationships, when it comes to relationships, they're going the opposite way. When it comes to religion, we're going the opposite way. When it comes to how to build simple things like in the community or whatever, more often than not, we're going the opposite way. So that is not community. Are there pockets of good examples where that's not happening? Absolutely, there are. And those are the ones that we need to stand on, encourage, and build up. But we have to address all of this here. You understand what I'm saying? And right now, for anybody to want to associate themselves with, to unify themselves with someone who really, and you want to unify yourself with a cultural mindset that does not have any standards when it comes to what is unity versus what isn't. I don't want to be associated with that. I can say that and still love my blackness, my black history, my black family, and all that stuff. I could still love all that, but hate the culture. So my hope is take what I said, really think about it. And and this platform is wide open. If you want to enter in some kind of dialogue with it, I would love that. You can put it in the comments. Just keep it respectful. Okay, that's all we ask. And we can dialogue with this, especially you brothers. If you want to dialogue, I would love to do that. I don't have any problem. I don't run from any of that. But it's only when people start getting disrespectful and name calling and all that, that's when I just quickly show you the door. But I'm here. But hopefully this kind of make things a little bit clearer for some of y'all, because they tell you, okay, well, you got to do shorts now because that's how because people have short attention spans. So now you got to focus on shorts. Okay, let me focus on shorts. You do a short and people still miss the point. So who knows? Anyway, let me look through the comments one more time and I'm done. But like, if you have any questions at all while I'm here on live, you can ask me now, or otherwise put it in the comments. Okay. So let me take a look again. And, Sawdust says, I'll watch your video, but you really need to get in the church that teaches from the Bible. I've done that a lot. And listen, Sawdust, at the end of the day, if the church is something that has worked for you, and it's, and you think that's an answer for you, I'm not mad at you at all. But I have a whole collection of videos, okay, about my own 40 plus year experience in the church. Okay. And, that taught Bible, okay, inside, outside. I probably know it maybe a little bit better than you do. Maybe I don't, but I've spent a great deal of time in the church, and I have definitely have had a story to tell. And if you take the time, go through our channel, both my wife and I have told that story repeatedly. So so I would advise you to take some time and go through that. Okay. Let's see. Someone here, they said, good evening. Okay. Yeah, good evening to you back. Okay. Okay. I thought that was the name of a city state. I'm sorry. Anyway, he said, where are you from? Where are you talking from? Arizona. I am in Arizona. And yes, so it's 85 degrees. I used to say that at the beginning of the video, but yeah. Yep. Arizona. But I'm originally from the East Coast. Yeah. So I was born and raised in the East Coast, lived in California, lived in Florida, lived in Georgia, Atlanta, I've been a lot of places, but we're in Arizona now and we're loving it. Where are you from? Just sticking around, just give y'all another minute. If there's any other questions you have from me, I don't bite, I don't bite at all. I welcome open discussion. I think that's a way you begin to build stuff. Social media is built in a way where everybody talks at the same time and nobody listens. That's kind of contradictory to the whole term social media. Ain't that something? We're supposed to be talking and listening, and I welcome that on this platform. But like I said, again, as long as you keep it respectful, I'm good. He says he's from Detroit. Okay. Detroit. Okay. But that's it. I guess that's all I have. And like I said, especially you brothers, I welcome that. If you want to talk, what I really encourage, especially for our brothers in the house, is that anywhere, regardless if when you're leaving a comment, make sure you write it as a complete thought. Okay. This is not me talking down on you. Okay. This is just man to man here. Write it as a complete thought. Okay. Because a lot of times the assumption is that people are in your head, but people aren't in your head. At least they better not be. Write a complete thought. I say this because I want our men to be respected, even when you talk. And if you are just writing just broken thought, it's hard for people to follow along what you're saying, let alone respect you as an individual. So I'm here to help so that that's not the case. Regardless if we agree or disagree, I can't carry on a conversation if I'm not hearing, if you're not giving me a complete thought. And I would say the same thing for the women too. You know what I mean? Same thing. So that's what we're here to help and to build one another up. Okay. But we're going to be honest, especially when we're talking about community. Okay. Because you can't have a common unity if you're not unified. And I think if we're honest enough, we can take a quick cursory view of what we call the Black community, and we can see by and large, there is no unity. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you can't build your own community. Okay. And we've talked about that too. I was touching on that. Just because that's where it is, it doesn't mean you can't build your own community. What do I mean by that? Am I saying that your own community? I'm saying you just got to go with the white people. Is that what I'm saying? Absolutely not. I'm saying build a common unity with people where you have a shared interest and you're moving forward, where you both benefit, right? Some of those people are going to look like you, but they're also going to be people who don't look like you. You have to be willing to go with that, right? That's how you build community. And that's how it works. Okay. So, don't fall into this trap in thinking that all people who look alike are community. That is not true. Okay. Not where we are right now in this present state. That's we're not there. It just isn't. Okay. And so we just have to be honest with that. Okay. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you. As always, is joining in. And like I said, again, I'm here. You can leave a comment. I don't bite. Okay. And we can agree to disagree. It's okay too. We just have to be respectful. Okay. That's all I have. Here. Hold on. Let me see here. Man, y'all be coming in at the last minute. Let me see. Herbal Man. I like the name, but let me see what you're saying though. Anyway, well, my dude, at least you are honest, my man, about church. But fortunately for me, the Holy Spirit led me personally from organized religion to having an actual living experience with Christ himself. Okay, well, good for you. Good for you, man. Good for you. And if you think I'm going to talk down on that, I wouldn't. That's your experience. That's your experience. But that your experience isn't applicable to other people. And so I would encourage you to listen to other people like myself who didn't have that experience. Okay. And don't assume the worst. Don't just immediately assume that, well, you just didn't read the Bible enough, or you just didn't pray enough and all of that. Never take that. And let me say that to all the Christians in the room. When you're listening to people who may have gone through church and they had a bad experience, don't assume that it's something they didn't do. If you really want to turn people off, that's the way to do it. Have a listening ear and listen to what they're saying, especially men, especially you men who are Christians in the house. When you hear other men saying, hey, listen, I went to church and I had this experience or whatever, learn to listen. And don't just simply assume that, well, they didn't pray enough or you didn't read the Bible, well, you had some sin in your life, because there's a lot of times that is not the case at all. Okay. And we have a class that we got upcoming. We're going to be talking all about that soon. I was going to repost that today. I'll repost it later on tonight. Again, just reminding people about that. And the goal of this class that we're going to be teaching, next month, is not to convert anybody. It's not to pull people out of the church. You can still stay in the church if you want. But what we are going to do is challenge you on your beliefs. We're going to challenge you on that. And if your beliefs are rock solid and they are absolute and they're true, then it shouldn't even be a problem for you. You should want to be challenged. But we're going to be respectful, not talking over each other, not talking down on anybody, but simply presenting, hey, listen, let's look at what the Bible says. Now let's look at what history actually says. And we're going to do that. So I challenge you, for y'all, if you're interested, make sure you check that out. I'll repost it on the community page tonight, and I welcome everybody. But please understand, this is not a debate. It is not like I'm gonna talk down on you and you better get out of these demonic churches. Now I'll say that. I'm just gonna say that. Okay, that's my opinion. But I'm going to leave that out, and I'm gonna say, okay, now this is what the Bible says. Okay, this is what it said. This is the claim that it made here. Okay, now let's look at what actual history says. Right? We go look at them both. Okay. So, and then you're going to be left up to how you want to handle that. Let's see. Yeah. Community equals church in this sense, to a degree. Okay. But in my experience, which is interesting, but in my experience though, it's community, but it's conditional. Okay, Eric, let's keep it a buck. You cannot say community isn't conditional in the church. As long as you're doing everything they tell you to do, as long as you're in complete agreement with everything, it's okay. But the moment you start questioning pastor, you're going to find community. You're going to see the definition. That asterisk going to become real. It's going to come real. All right. But anyway, that is all I have. Finally, how y'all be doing that? I'll be ready to sign off, and then y'all want to hit these 3 pointers at the last second. But anyway, like I said, I'm here. You can always leave a comment, and we're here. Okay. Let's build. How about that? Let's build, and let's build the right way, but let's build it the honest way too. All right. That's all I have. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care. See you again next time.